What's up? It's Mike Mal, and you are listening to the Athletor podcast, where we dive into the processes, mindsets, strategies of some of the most successful athletes and coaches from all walks of life. Athletor podcast coming at you. This week's guest is Ian Assael, and Ian is a club owner in Northern Virginia, started in Central PA, is some of the best club guys in the country. Look to Ian as a mentor, and he's had tons of success with his athletes. Trent Hidlay, Hayden Hidlay, Hoffman, like the names go on and on, not to mention a guy named Zane Rutherford, but all these guys looked up to Ian Assael. He drops a ton of knowledge, some awesome stories, all that and more coming up on the podcast. Don't miss it. Hey, everyone knows that wrestling is 90% mental. We're super excited to have partnered with Wrestling Mindset, the #1 wrestling specific mindset program in the world. Make sure to sign up at wrestlingmindset.com using promo code Athletor25 for a $500 discount. Stop underperforming and losing to guys that you should beat. Athletor podcast coming at you. I didn't want to waste any time talking to my good friend, Ian Assael, off mic. I wanted to make sure that all of our conversations were on mic and being recorded for you. So first of all, thank you very much for jumping on the podcast, Ian. I appreciate it.
Always love talking to you, Mike.
Yeah, we do. We have some really good conversations in the short amount of time that we see one another every year. I feel like we always kind of like shove as much information in each other's brains as possible, and that's a good thing. That's a really good thing, because to me, right, the people that I see on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, we don't distill enough. Like, it's a lot of small talk, and that's cool, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I love about when I see you is like, okay, I've had this thing on my mind for the last year. What does Ian think about it? And that kind of stuff. And that becomes really cool to me. So first of all, okay, if you don't know who Ian is one of the best club coaches in the country. I'm going to have you give your backstory here in just a minute, but congratulations on your first senior level world champion. That's pretty darn cool, man.
It's very exciting. Technically, and a lot of people had a hand in it. Zane was probably the first.
Oh, Zane as senior level. Yeah, he did win one, didn't he?
He did.
He did. I keep on thinking of him as a silver, but yes, he did win one. Okay. So Zane. That's right. Okay. So let's get the backstory. Give me the origin story of Ian Assael.
Not much to say. I was ran a club in Pennsylvania for a long time, and had very fortunate to have just the right people at the right time. And listen, man, you've done this for a long time, and you know the deal. There's a lot of people that know how to run a club. There's a lot of people that know wrestling. You need the right kids. You need the right families. And we just kind of had for lack of a better word, a perfect storm where, Trent came through and Hayden came through and Gavin Hoffman came through and Jared and Kent Lane came through and Cole and Ty Walter came through and, Bronson Barber came through and Brian Courtney came through. And we just, and a lot of people I didn't mention that, were just great kids, but, just super spoiled by that. And then I ended up down at NC State, and I was on staff there for a few years while Hayden and Trent were there, which was really cool. And, it's a great program. I think the world of Pat and everybody involved with the Wolfpack program. It's first class all the way. And then I took a job in Northern Virginia about 3 years ago. Someone offered me the opportunity to run a club here, and I took it. And, again, we've got a great group of kids here, but it's very, very, very different. There's not a cultural priority on wrestling. There's not a huge value on wrestling. There's a lot of kids that do a lot of different things, which is fine. And I think at a younger age that, it's probably encouraged, but I think that if you want to be competitive in today's climate, you're probably going to have to specialize in high school, unless you're a real freak athlete.
I say 8th grade. I say 8th grade. I think that's a fair
somewhere
assessment.
In there. 8th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, reclass year. Mm-hmm. And I think Trent's a great example of that. And, people know Trent's story at NC State, and they know he's got a U23 silver, and he was on the U20 team, and now finally a senior world gold, which is so exciting for him. And I'm just glad to see him finally be rewarded for all the effort he's put in. But he wasn't a Pee Wee superstar. He never won Pennsylvania youth states. He was playing 3 sports coming into high school. He didn't place at the state tournament as a freshman. And then I think at that point, something kind of clicked for him where he decided to forego those other sports and just go all in and, on wrestling. And, just the passion you see in him when he competes, he's got that passion when he trains. Like, he loves to train, and he loves to train hard. So once he was all in on wrestling, and, by senior year.
Hey, don't go anywhere. It's Mike. We'll get back to the podcast in just a second. We got to pay the bills though. Do you have an athlete that's looking to break into the social media space? We at AthletorLive.com have a brand new in-depth tutorial done by none other than Hayden Hidlay. If you don't know who Hayden is, he's not even a Division I wrestler, yet he's got hundreds of thousands of engaged followers. Learn how to create engaging content, grow your followers, and open up new opportunities in the NIL space. Go to athletorlive.com/Hayden, and we'll give you the first module completely free.
He wanted who's number one. He went from not placing at the state tournament as a freshman, and Pennsylvania AAA states is not a cakewalk. There's a lot of great kids that don't place.
Sure.
However, to go from not placing to being one in the country in the span of a high school career that's a lot of levels to jump.
For sure. And you're seeing it. And you're seeing it pay off in dividends. And now he's got a senior world title. And what did he do when he got off the plane, Ian? So
what do you do? He probably had a hoagie.
He probably did.
Was that the answer?
That's for sure. But
hey, I got to give one quick shout out if I could.
Go ahead.
For those that don't know where the hoagie celebration came, who's number one? He wins the match. And Jarrett Lane, who was a club teammate of his and, a stud in his own right, threw a laser, just a perfect dart from the crowd with the hoagie. And I'm like, if he doesn't put that in Trent's hand, I don't think the legend ever happens. I can't see him walking over, picking it up off the mat at that point, and you know what I mean, trying to eat it. And
so I always thought it was
shout out to Jarrett. I had no idea that was happening, and I was sitting in the corner. I was sitting in the coach's chair, and for a second, Trent was still being heavily recruited at that point. Lehigh was one of the suitors, and Jared had already committed to Lehigh, and they were close. And, it's a great academic institution and a great program. And, Santoro's a great guy. So I think they were definitely on his list. And, Brands had actually flown into, that's when it was still at Lehigh at the Snake Pit. He flew into Allentown, to try to get one last pitch because he was still uncommitted. And I really thought it was a t-shirt. You see kids win big matches. Someone wins Super 32 and they break out the Penn State or the Cornell or, the Okie State shirt, hold it up to the crowd and put it on. I kind of for a second thought that's what was going on. And then I realized taking a bite of it. Like, whatever, man, you won, just do it. The ref was not happy. The ref was not happy.
Oh, the ref stink. Dude, refs stink. Can we just and this is foreshadowing, you're going to be asked at the end of this podcast if you have a magic wand and you could change one thing about the sport, what would it be?
Yes.
Mine would be get rid of refs, get rid of officials. There has to be some algorithm that can figure this out. There has to be. They're just a big old stick in the mud.
It's tough because there's so much of our sport. I was having this conversation the other day with a couple of our girls who are still, they're in freestyle mode. They're getting ready for Journeyman and Super 32. And we're just talking about, Partier in general. And it's like, listen, you don't know how much time you're going to have. They may let you stay on top for 9 seconds, and they may let you stay on top for 16 seconds. Like, you don't know how much time you're going to have.
Seconds.
So just keep trying to turn, use your time until they blow you up. But that's one of those where it's like, man, we got a clock actually running for the match itself. It wouldn't be that hard to say it's 12 seconds. And if you have something locked up, you can have 15 or whatever it is. But the ambiguity of it, like, you've been there where it's like your kid is on bottom and it's like for 30 seconds and you're like, put him up. you're sitting here making hand gestures like put them up, and then you get on top, and it's like in 4 seconds they're like blowing the whistle. You're like,
I'll take it a step
I'm not trying to
further.
bitch, but it's that
I am.
inconsistency.
I am.
Tough.
And I'm going to start bitching here. Here's where I'm going to start bitching.
The inconsistency on grounding drives me nuts.
That's a tough one, but let's go back to parterre for just 1 second.
Okay. Sure.
This drives me absolutely batshit crazy. They don't know what some techniques look like.
100%.
And so they blow you dead and you're back up. I'm like, dude, we were an eyelash away from locking up that lace. You give me 3 seconds and then you'll recognize what he was doing. Right. Good
100%.
Lord. Like it that kind of stuff.
100%. You see it in folk style too, where a kid is diligently working for a turn and gets hit for stalling on top, or they're doing nothing but hanging on riding and they don't get hit.
My son is so good at looking busy on top. I'm like, you're freaking stalling, dude. Like you're sitting on a wrist and you're stalling. Like I understand you can ride just about anyone in the country. That don't get you any points, bud. And so but they're not calling me for stalling. I'm like, I didn't say that. Those referees are idiots. I said, you're stalling, like 100%, sitting on called a Blair ride, sitting on a Blair ride out to the side and just squeezing his hands and his wrists.
Right.
That's fist in the air, bud. That's a stall call. As far as
I don't disagree. And the
there's
other
nothing
thing, and I know there's a million things you can pick out, but at the high school level, especially, even when it's done correctly, a Blair ride is called potentially dangerous probably 75% of the time. I see it all the time where kids try to get a Blair ride and refs stop it.
Dude, the girls that I have are getting really, really, really good at it, but their shoulders are more flexible. Not my fault.
More flexible.
Not my freaking fault. Like, first of all, we're not going against the joint. Okay. And so I have to train it differently with the girls. It's a whole thing. Golly, we got off track.
That's interesting.
All right.
Sorry. Get back on the
that's my fault. It's my fault. That's probably going to happen more than once on this podcast.
That's okay.
Okay. When you were giving your backstory, you neglected or maybe unintentionally left out the traveling circus that was Ken Churcho's gold medal camp system, of which you basically ran for. And I don't want to take anything away from Kenny because he did an amazing job, but
no, he did an amazing job. He busted his ass for a long time. 100%.
Look, again, I'm not taking anything away from him, but you were the kind of pillar that held that thing up for many years. What is the biggest thing that you learned along the way? Because, look, I took those camp jobs. Well, hold on. I took those camp jobs with Kenny, not for the money, God knows, but for the learning opportunity, number one, and networking of sorts. But if there's one major takeaway that you could get from that experience, what do you think it was, and how do you apply it to your life or coaching now?
It's a really interesting question. I hadn't really thought about it, but I would say, excuse me, I got a little throat thing, got a little cold. I would say that there's so many ways to be successful in wrestling. There's so many different people that wrestle so many different styles. There's so much different ways to warm up. There's so many different ways to score points. There's so many different ways to prepare yourself. I mean, everybody's got to do some of the same things. You've got to be fundamentally sound, but some guys are just long and lanky and they can make a living off scrambling and legs. And other guys are just really good at controlling ties and holding position and grinding out 4-3 matches. And then you get other guys, that are just, wide open. They're just scoring points left and right. And sometimes coaches just think it has to be one way. Like we have to do, and there are certain things like on a single leg. Yeah. Your head needs to be up. Your trail leg needs to move. You need to get your hands together. You got to do certain things, but coaches that are just like, oh, you got to shoot it at this time with this setup. And, hey, this is the only way we're going to finish out of a crackdown. And, when someone throws a leg in, this is exactly what we're going to do every time. And it's like, there's a lot of different ways to do things. And you see it. You see some guys are just loose and carefree before matches, and they just go out and annihilate people. And other guys are not tight, but they're intense. They're, you see it when they're pacing, you see it when they're warming up, when they're bouncing, and other guys are sitting on the bench one match before their match and they're, joking with their buddies, and then they go out there and they're ready to go. So everybody's different, and trying to coach all your kids the same way. Like, I think as you get older, you realize that you got to treat kids differently. Like, some kids, if you really snap out on their ass, they're going to wake up and they're going to be ready to go. And other kids are going to put their head down and they're going to shut down, and you just got to learn how to, you got to hold them accountable, obviously, but you kind of can figure out, you know what I mean, who needs what. And again, from a technique perspective, you see certain coaches that are like, this is what we're going to do on top. This is what we're going to do. We're going to do a 2-on-1 tilt and a rebar tilt, and we're cradlers. And, well, what if a kid's really good at bars and halves? Or what if a kid's just really good at, whatever? And I just think that overall, some people, they feel like they have all the answers, and obviously no one has all the answers. And I don't think you can put it into a cookie cutter, especially in a club, because you have so many different kids from different ages and different towns and different abilities. At least if you're running a high school or a college, same group of kids every day, 4-year span. Well, shit, college now, 7-year span, whatever. But this is our system. This is our system. But when you're getting kids from 25 different communities, and some of them have really good fundamentals and some of them have no fundamentals, and some of their coaches are really good at stress and baseline defense, and some kids come in your room and they're like, oh, what's baseline defense? And some coaches are really good with, whatever. They're a high crotch guy, and your kids come to you and they've got good mechanics on a high crotch, and they've got good setups, and they can finish lower level, or they can knee slide and chase it to a double, or they can finish in a crackdown. And other kids are like, oh, we just do single legs. So just trying, especially in an area that's not wrestling heavy, like PA is every little town. I'm in central Pennsylvania, so there's Lewisburg Elementary, and there's Mifflinburg Elementary, and there's Muncie Elementary, and all those communities have their programs, and kids start out in those young, and then the kids that are more serious, they want, different partners, they want a little more serious environment, they seek out a club. Where in a lot of places, Northern Virginia being one, you have kids that don't really start until high school, which is really, really tough. I mean, you can put all the time you want in the world and you can get good, but you're not going to win Super 30 Fargo, like all that stuff, because there's so many. And you know this because you've been on the circuit for so long. Certain clubs, certain states, for one reason or another, they get blown up by social media, they get blown up by flow. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but they get a lot of oxygen. And then there's great clubs all over the country that have been doing it for decades that people never heard of. Like I said something to someone the other day about Quest, and they're like, what's Quest? I'm like, Western PA, Jamaica, a fantastic club. Yeah. Every year around Fargo, you see statistics of how many Pinnacle kids are competing and how many Pinnacle kids. And those guys, Paulson, those guys do a great job. I mean, I would see those guys at Super 2, and Hayden and Griffin Parriott had some intense rivalries. They wrestled at Dapper Dan that year. But a lot of people outside the mainstream, a lot of people that aren't
they really had 21 Fargo placers. Just as an aside, they had 21 Fargo placers this
and they've
year.
done that. And they've done that for a long time, maybe not quite 21 every year, but they've been consistently really good for a long time. And people don't realize it. People outside the West Coast, unless they're wrestling people like me and you and me are junkies. We're looking at this on social media. We're reading this. Our circle of friends, our group text, our wrestling people. How many people on the East Coast now how good Clovis is? Like, or, just as an example, where you were at, right?
Yeah. Right, power. Look, it's crazy. They don't realize how good. They don't realize how good Buchanan had a world team member at U17s this year. That's like, they're mostly a folk style area, but
Right.
they put a guy on the freaking world team this year. Like that's a big deal, and
Right.
people are like, hey, it's California. Well, California's pretty big, but yeah,
California is pretty big,
to your
and, and
point,
and the high end talent is very high end.
very high, 100%. So
Don't take this personally, but especially neutral.
yeah, no, you should
I don't
you
think
should
there's a huge emphasis on top like there is in other places.
So Poway is the exception, but
Mhm.
yes, I would tend to agree with you that the neutral
And it's
position
just a
is
different style of wrestling. Listen,
yeah.
Ohio is very similar. I mean, kids are really good. They're tough and on top in Ohio. But again, when you why is
So
PA probably why does PA have the most success most years at NCAAs and rankings and things of that nature? Top, top.
top
It's value.
100%.
And if you ask 99% of the college freshmen, hey, what was the hardest transition going high school to college? Top end guys, bottom. Couldn't get off bottom, couldn't get off bottom, couldn't get off bottom. And PA kids have that trouble also, but
Sure.
they're used to people lifting and returning. They're used to people grinding hard. They're a little more adept on bottom because frankly, if you're
They're
not good on
prepared.
bottom in PA,
Yeah.
you're gonna get beat. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
So it's funny. A friend of mine, a good friend of mine, he follows the sport pretty well. He has a good, kind of
Sure.
overarching understanding of the sport. Um, he follows Poway High School because my son's on the team, and so he brought up
Right.
another kid on the team. And kid that I'm talking about happened to move into town for high school, and he's like, "Well, out of this kid and two others, who do you think's going to do better in college?" And I said, "Well, not that kid." He goes, "Well, why?" I go, "Because he's really like he's going to win a state title 100%. Like this kid's really
Mhm.
really good." But he's got a very stereotypical California style of wrestling. He kind of wants to
Mhm.
dance on the outside. He's super athletic, like super athletic. But if he gets frustrated, and that's really what it comes down to, like you got lifted and returned, you got pushed out of bounds, right? Like, oh, you
Mhm.
can't push me out of bounds. He just did. What are
Right.
you gonna
Right.
do? If he gets frustrated on the bottom position, you know,
Mhm.
he's going to have some trouble at the next level for sure. And
Right.
what's tricky to me is like, how do we give them that look while still trying to accomplish certain goals in the meantime?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think, excuse me, this killed me. I think you have to emphasize a lot of top wrestling in your room just so your kids get better on bottom. Like if you're not drilling, like you getting out of legs is a skill and
Oh
it's
yeah,
a difficult thing to do. It is very hard. If somebody's good at riding legs, if somebody's good at getting power half, parallel, someone's really good at stretching people out, they can be a nightmare. Like learning how to get out of legs takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of just effort. It's hard. It's like finishing a single leg. It's just
yeah,
I'm sure you've had this. I will have parents come to me on like a Monday. Oh, we went to this tournament on Sunday and we got in on a single leg 3 times and couldn't finish. And here's the video. And can you show him how to finish it? I'm like, we've been through this 10,000
yeah,
times. Like you get to the leg, you
yeah,
get to your feet. If you can't get to your feet, you got to get your hips down. You got to run corner hard. You got to keep your head up. You got to avoid a shin whizzer. If they start squaring up on you, split the middle, get them off their feet before you get stretched out. And there's other things too,
yeah.
obviously, but just the general concept of what you have to do. Everyone knows it. I've said this to parents before. Okay, NCAA finals, 10 weights. Typically,
Mm,
there's a shutout. Typically, not always. If you include the
mm,
semifinals, if you include the 20 semifinals and the 10 finals, you know
mm.
what I'm saying? Those 30 bouts,
Yeah,
there's going to be a couple of shutouts, almost for
100%.
sure in those 30 matches, right? So a guy
Yep.
that's in the NCAA Division One semifinals or finals can go an entire bout, 7 minutes, not be able to finish a takedown, not be able to get off bottom, or they chose neutral and couldn't get a takedown. And
Right.
when they were on top, they couldn't get a turn or a riding time point. So they spent an entire 7 minutes of a match and they couldn't completely execute a technique. So that
Yeah.
it's really hard to do those things, and you just have to do it
Yeah.
just over and over and over. But I think too many people, I mean, there's a difference between drilling and sparring, obviously, but I think there's something in between where
Mhm.
I mean, sparring and play wrestling is, I mean, you see it all the time. Like, guys are rolling and they're passing ankles,
Yeah.
and then the guy jumps over the top, and then the other guy.
Yeah.
But just you getting to a leg, and I'm your partner, and I'm making you work. Like, you're trying to get corner, and I'm trying to take the corner away. You're trying to get corner, and I'm trying to take it away. And then you start getting the
So
corner, and I get to a shin
hold
whizzer, and
hold
you
on,
got to be
hold
the
on.
shin
So
whizzer.
I get what you're saying. And one of the ways that I describe that to athletes is this is a spar, but he's going to be successful.
Right,
This is a spar, but he's going to be successful. Okay,
right.
so take from that, and however you extrapolate that in your brain, they're going to be successful at the end of this goal.
Mhm.
Okay, so if that means that you're shutting down 80% of it, fine. If they hit it
Mhm.
flawlessly, fine. But understand your job here in this equation is to make it difficult, but
Yes.
not impossible, right? Not
Make it
impossible.
realistic. Make it realistic. And I
Yeah,
think
make it
kids,
fully
and
realistic.
I love the way you explain that. And the other thing that I think is really important that some kids don't understand, I've been trying to get our group to understand this. You threw out the number 80%, which is great. But it's got to be that I'm doing everything right, but
Mm,
I'm doing it with 80% intensity, not that I'm
mhm.
doing it 80% right.
Right.
Not that I'm
Yeah.
going not that I'm going full effort, but I'm cutting corners on technique. I'm doing the
Right.
things I should be doing. But I'm just not doing it full out. And I think kids have a much better ability to do that on their feet than they do on the
Yeah.
mat. Because we've been doing a lot of mat wrestling lately. The last probably 8, 9 days, I've been doing a ton of top and bottom. And it's like, okay, we're doing a set on bottom. I need you to be 80% tough on top. I need you to follow a switch. I need you to, if I stand up, lift and return, or drop down to a single leg, I need you to put weight on my hands. So I got to get hands off. I
Mhm.
need you to put legs in so I can clear legs. But kids either immediately get into wrestling live, or they
Yes.
don't give it anywhere near the effort needed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Same thing on bottom. Like, if you're working whatever, you're working guts, you're working tilts, whatever you're working, I'm giving you a good feel on bottom. Like, I'm not just giving you my wrist and then letting you turn me
Mhm.
over, and now all of a sudden I'm trying to get off my back. Like,
Right.
contesting the entire sequence. And here's the other thing, and I've been on our kids for this a lot also lately, because they just don't get it. Most executions, almost every execution of what you try to do in competition, is going to fail or be sloppy or messy or whatever. You are not going to
Sure.
just hit a single, you are not going to just hit a perfect single leg, jump up on your feet, the guy's shoe is in your armpit, and now you're foot sweeping him and he's falling over. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, you're gonna have to
Yeah. It doesn't
scramble on
work
the
like
mat,
that.
and maybe you are gonna eventually battle to your feet, but that guy's gonna be pushing off on your head. He's gonna be attacking your grip. He's gonna be trying to get his foot back to the mat. Like, just
Yeah.
most things aren't going to be clean. So let's not make them clean all the time in practice. It's okay when we're warming up to just hit some really nice high crotches and run across to a double. But you watch a lot of wrestling.
It's not realistic.
When do you see that? When do you see? And the other thing, and this one drives me nuts, high school season will be starting to come once, and some high school coaches will drill stand-ups into the ground. Stand up, cut off, put in your back pocket, other guy go. Stand up, cut off, put in your back pocket, other guy go. Stand up, cut off. And you have to know how to do a stand up. You have to drill it. It's a fundamentally very important skill. But if you think the whistle's going to blow against somebody good, and you're going to stand up, cut off, put the hand in your back pocket, and you're facing them in 4 seconds, you're delusional.
You're crazy. Yeah, you're
You got to
crazy.
be able to
No,
wrestle when they're jamming you. You got to be able to move with it. They're coming out hard on the side to choke you with a claw. You got to change them over now. You got to get them off that side of your body. You got to get them behind you. You got to get to a base where you can wrestle, or off your base
yeah.
to a place where you can wrestle. You and I have talked about this a million times. Like, and I think we're really similar mindset, especially, technically. Like, on
Mhm.
bottom, you got to be able to seal and find hands and get your shoulders behind you, because if you can't do those things, you're getting ridden. Like, if you're on your base
Yeah,
touching the mat, you can't touch the mat and get hand control. You can't touch the mat and seal off. You can't
for
touch the
sure.
mat and pressure back. So if they're driving you forward, you got to be able to get the bottom end out. You got to be able to knee slide and find hands. And it's hard to do, but if you feel it in practice where that guy's really jamming the hell out of you, or that guy's really coming out of the side to choke you. So it's like, okay, Mike, you either have to change him over and knee slide and get to your feet, or he's literally going to just really start choking you, and then he's going to force legs in. Like that's what we got to get.
It's that feel becomes super duper important. I do want to. I only have you for an hour, so I do want to change gears a little bit.
We're good. I'm sorry. I ramble, man. You know me when it comes to me and wrestling. I ramble.
No, look, 100%. I get it. Like I said, that wasn't the first or last tangent that we will go on. But man, the recruiting aspect of this sport, we talk to NCAA coaches all the time. The recruiting aspect of this sport has really changed over the last 3-5 years. Okay.
Huge.
It's crazy to me. And so as you're starting to prepare another group of kids for the next evolution of their life, how is it different from when you were training Hidlay and Hoffman and those guys? Just as a broad stroke.
As a broad stroke, NIL has done so. I'll just say it's done a lot of damage, and the reason it's done a lot of damage is every kid that's had a decent high school career now thinks he's going to get paid. Like Bo Bassett's going to get paid, Blaze is going to get paid, Jackson's going to get paid. Those kids are going to get paid,
Those
and they
deserve it. 3 kids we just brought up on these. Those are the exact 3 kids that we just brought up on the last podcast.
Oh, really?
Like the exact same 3. Those are the ones.
Okay, but you know what I'm saying, because they're
but those are the ones.
They're the elite ones. So, but like again, a kid that thinks he's a one-time Maryland state champion or a 2-time Virginia placer, like they're not going to get any money. And some of them are literally going into college meetings thinking that money is coming. And look at all the kids who put their name in the portal. And yeah, I mean, when Stephen Buchanan goes in the portal, everyone's going to be excited, and Parco goes in the portal, and, you know, guys that are legit All-Americans or guys that have that potential. But when you're the backup at a mid-tier school, you're not going to get paid. I mean, somebody may take you as a depth guy, or they may have a need at that weight. But the other misconception is that everyone has money. I mean, outside of, and you know this, outside of 5 or 6, 4 or 5, whatever, of the biggest programs, the average program doesn't have money. Hell, they're raising money for their assistants. They're doing golf tournaments, and golf outings, and they're doing turkey shoots, or they're doing raffles, and they're doing camps just to supplement, their volunteers. Like they don't have $20,000 to give a kid. And it's also allowed, and I've marveled at the way Penn State's been able to manage their depth. And I'm curious if you're wearing the Okie State shirt, because they're gonna run into the same thing. It's been amazing the way they've been able to keep some of those elite guys around, and it speaks to their culture. I know a lot of people want to hate on it, and they get all the best kids and this and that, and yeah, I could coach if I had Zane and Nolf. If I had Zane and Nolf and Nickel, I could do it. No, you couldn't. No, you couldn't.
No,
it's not quite that easy. Keeping all those guys happy and keeping your bench guys to the point where they're not toxic, where they want to be there, is really an impressive thing. But with the increased scholarships, which again, there's a lot of people that don't have 10 now. I saw you had, Coach Beasley on the other day from George Mason. I've known Frank forever. They're right up the road from me. I think the world of Frank. He's not fully funded. So when the NCAA says you can go from 9.9 to 30, the people that are 6, are going to go from 6 to 6. The people that are 4.5 are going to go to 4.5. Now, maybe someone like, an Ohio State or Penn State or Okie State might go from 10 to 20, but that's just going to enable those programs to just stockpile more talent.
Yeah, 100%.
You can almost give a ride to a guy that might not start for you for a few years just because you don't want him on your rival's roster.
So let me ask you this then. What is Kale doing that he keeps Terrell Bearclaw in the room and happy and graduated, and then eventually goes to UVU?
I think it's a combination of things. I think that they've proven to have an extremely successful formula for winning. I don't have the statistic in front of me, but I'm sure you've seen it. Their win percentage in the semis and the finals, even when they're the lower
They're
seed
lights
or
out.
the worst seed, they're still lights out. It's unbelievable. And I think they really, I've tried to pick Zane's brain. He comes up here once, twice a year and does a clinic for my club, and he'll stay at my house, and we get a little chance to talk and stuff. And I'm genuinely curious. I'm like, what do you think the difference is? He's like, it's an ability to just focus on just competing your hardest and not worrying about wins and losing. And you've said that to athletes over and over and over. Hey, don't worry about wins and loses. Just compete as hard as you can. Don't focus on the results. Just go as hard as you can, wrestle as intensely as you can, prepare as well as you can. Whatever happens, happens. But they seem to have a group of kids that have consistently bought into that. And even if they're not, and the point that I'm making is, so does that allow a Zane or a Nalf or whoever to, compete lights out? Yes, but I think it also allows someone like a Barraclaw or a David Evans or, hell, I had Baylor Shunk was in my club for years, and he was super tough. Creighton Edsel, I mean, he was a spot starter for Penn State. He was a PA state champ. He could have went anywhere.
Yeah, anywhere.
Not anywhere, but he could have started at 665 of the 77, 78 Division I program. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he's a legit PA champ. He was Trent's training partner a lot. Like he was really, really good, but he stuck out his whole career at Penn State, and he was in and out of the lineup. But again, he's a high school 60, so he's college 57, 65. Obviously, they got a murderer's row. They got a murderer's row there between Chenzo and Zane and Nickel and Nalf and different Mark Hall, different people at different times. But I think they've created a culture where people they're not as concerned with being the national champ in the lineup. Like they're happy to be there. And I'm sure there's a lot more to it than that, but they've done a really amazing job with culture. It really is.
Here's
I'm excited to see what David can do. I know you're an Okie State fan, and I'm excited to see what David can do, because I think parity is really important for wrestling. It's not good when you're at NCAAs and the team race is wrapped up on like the second day, it just takes something out of it. It's still an awesome event and it's great. But when there's a little bit of tension going into the finals and the blood round and the medal match, like that really, and that's what you want. Listen, man, no one wants to watch the Super Bowl when it's 41-3 at the half. You know what I mean?
Nope.
So a little bit of parity, I think, would be good for wrestling, but it's gonna be really interesting, and maybe somebody else can break through. But it's gonna take it's gonna take
a lot
getting
of money.
the right horses. As long as the PJ Dukes and the Lil Dolls and those really, really high-end kids are going to Penn State, and you're getting kids, like Rainey and Jax going to Okie State, for somebody else to jump in that spot, whether it's NC State or Nebraska or Ohio State, Michigan, they're going to need 4 or 5 of those really, I don't want to say can't miss, because no one's a can't miss, but you're going to need some really high-end talent to beat those teams, because they're going to be extremely well coached and prepared. It's not like taking an elite kid and putting him in a mediocre environment. And there's a lot of great environments where if you put the right kids, they're going to thrive. But you need the right kid. You need the right kids.
Yeah. Going back to what Kale's doing right, I wasn't in that room very often, but when Kassar was in that room, I would go down on Fridays. It was match day. And as we got towards the season, literally Friday was Big Ten, matches. And so there was a workout before a dual meet, and it was a bigger dual meet. I don't know if it was Iowa. I don't know if it was Ohio State. It doesn't matter.
I'm curious to hear this because I think I've got a similar story, but go ahead.
Dude, it was a big match. It was a big match, and they were at Bryce Jordan, and it was like a big freaking deal.
Yes.
And as he's like he addressed the team, have fun, blah, 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 whatever, score a bunch of points. He says, okay, guys ready to go? And everyone's like, yeah, let's go. And he's like, all right, just make sure you're ready to make a bunch of mistakes. And I go, what? He just gave them permission to make as many mistakes as possible.
Right.
Like with one passing, he literally said, and it was like this kind of like throwaway passing line where he goes, all right, guys, go have some fun. Get ready to make a bunch of mistakes. Let's go. And that was it. And I was like, whoa, hold on now. Did he just give everyone permission in here
Right.
to make as many mistakes as possible? Yes, he did. That's a big deal. That's a big
Yes.
deal. And I don't know how many of those throwaway lines, those kind of honed in like lines are thrown out every day, but I bet it's a lot. I'd
Right.
bet dollars to donuts that it's a lot. And over the course of years, well, that infiltrates the mind of a Terrell Bearclaw. I can go out there and just make a ton of mistakes,
Right.
and I can keep it. I can keep up with the best guys in the country, and he proved that he could. I mean, the kid's a stud. When he got a chance to start at UVU, the kid's an absolute stud. And,
100%.
and
And just a
so
quick, and just a quick, and just a
go.
quick shout out to Adam Hall, who's done a
Yeah,
great job out there.
he's doing a
Adam,
great job.
he's doing a great job out there. And I think it's proof, that these non-wrestling power schools, when you get the right person in there, I mean, are you going to win NCAAs? Are you going to get a team trophy? Probably not. That's
Nope.
really, really going to be really hard to do. But can you field competitive teams and put out all Americans? Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And the more those schools do that, because that's a term that an admin understands. An admin doesn't, but they understand all American. Like
yeah,
they understand we had an all American, we had a Division I all American, and with so many programs, you know, tenuous, whether it's
mhm.
finances, title, not whatever. I mean, we're not in a great place right now in college wrestling in terms of stability with the programs. The more you can show your administration that you're excelling in some capacity, I think it goes a long way.
Yeah. No, 100%. And I guess the point that I'm trying to make is, while I think there's a lot of coaches that typically say the right things, they
Mm-hmm.
say, you shouldn't worry about the wins and losses, worry about the process, get better at it, light up
but
the
their
scoreboard.
actions but their actions reflect otherwise. They're saying it, but then it's like you got written out the whole second period.
Yeah.
I see it with parents more than anything,
Yeah.
especially youth parents. Hey buddy, just go out there and have fun and do your best. And then 5 minutes later it's like, I can't believe you got written out that third period. You were losing by one, you had to get out and you couldn't get out. And you see them with their phone. It's like, look at this, look at this, look at this. You had 3 opportunities to get to your feet and you didn't take it. And they're nuts. You know what I mean? But then they're like, hey, just do your best, buddy. You know what I mean? Like
Talk
you can
about it.
say what you can say what you want, but if your actions are contrary to it, kids aren't stupid.
Right, right. Whether they consciously realize it or not, they're going to react in a certain way. So how do you, and we're kind of winding down here. How do you balance coaching the parents and coaching the kids? Because something tells me there's a lot, and you know what? It might be a good thing for you now, right? There's maybe a lot of parents that didn't wrestle. That might actually be a good thing for you, because there's a lot of coaching that has to do with the parents. Maybe not as
Yes.
much in Northern Virginia, or maybe more. I don't know. But how has that changed over the course of your career?
I think that there's so much information out there that parents are trying to sift through it and they need help. 20 years ago, there wasn't 80 million clubs, clinics, videos. Like you get on Instagram and just everybody's showing a single leg or everyone's showing a duck
Mhm.
under a fireman's carry, or you can do this drill or that drill. And some of it's really good stuff. Some of it
Yeah.
not great, if you know what I mean.
Hmm.
But
Sure.
there's so many people. So parents are like, oh, well, we saw this video where they said, you should always finish your single leg like this, or, we read this article that, this camp's the best camp, or, we want to, there's just so many more avenues to look at wrestling that they're almost bombarded. They're almost overwhelmed. And the thing I try to do with parents is just tell them, listen, you need to get them in the room consistently if you want them to excel. 1 or 2 days a week is not going to do anything. I don't want your membership. I don't want your money in that case, because your kid's not going to progress and then he's going to be a drag on his partner, whatever. And I get it. There's sometimes a year you're busy, whatever. But if you're in season or you're a youth wrestler and it's preseason or whatever, and you're not doing any other sport and you're wrestling like 1 day a week, 2 days a week, it's just going to be really hard to get any kind of traction. So I just encourage the parents on consistency. and on patience. Just,
Yeah.
you know, again, the laundry list of kids that are really ultra successful that have had tons of losses in their life is all of them. Hayden
Yeah.
Hidlay, tons of losses in youth. Zane Rutherford, tons of losses in youth. Like every once in a while, there's that kid that can just blitz everyone. Like growing up, Yanni was running through everybody. But I mean, he still took losses here and there. But again,
Yeah.
there's so many good kids out there. You're going to take losses, and every time you try to up your level, when you go from county to half of your state to all of your state to the East Coast to the country, there's so many good kids. Like you can't rush the process, and you can't shortchange the process. Like it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work over time. And the other thing is trying to get the parents to understand we are going to be doing a ton of repetition. So even though we did a lot of something yesterday, we might do a lot of it tomorrow just because we need to get better at it. And this is our focal point. And don't think you're wasting your time because we did, whatever. We spent 30 minutes on just, finishing a high crotch or
capturing a wrist. Yeah. Capturing a wrist.
getting a wrist and climbing up, like making a correct tie, like not reaching, just little stuff. And, I got a great quick story for it because I don't know how much time we have. We have time for a quick story?
Yeah.
Okay. So you and I have talked about this before, just the importance of fundamentals, the importance of good position, stance discipline, shot discipline, maintaining position at all times. So I forget what day of week. It's a day of the week about a year ago. Maybe it was in the fall, winter, last season. I get a text from Trent sometime in the morning. Hey, is there club practice tonight? What time? Said 6:30. Why? Hey, I'm home. He's up in PA. I'm driving to Raleigh. I think I'm going to be going through your area around 6:30. Do you want me to come in? And I'm like, yes, of course. That would be an awesome surprise for the children to have Trent Hidlay at practice. So we're getting ready to start practice, and he's going to run it, teach some stuff. And so I start warming the kids up, and I have them jog for a couple minutes, start rolling out your shoulders, all the shit you do, tumble a little bit. And then I said, I'm going to, we're going to do a real good hard set, 3, 4, 5 minutes stance motion. We're going to stretch, and then Trent's going to take over and run practice. So as a coach, sometimes you tell the guys, hey, you're going for a minute, just go stance motion. Other times you're guiding it. Sprawl, down block, sprawl, shot, put 2 shots together. This happened to be one of those times where I was guiding it. I'm sprawl, shot, fake, circle, down block. And I look over in the corner, and Trent is doing it. He's not just doing his own thing. He's literally doing, after being in the car for 3 or 4 hours, he's literally doing everything that they're doing. So when I'm like shot, sprawl, he's like shot, sprawl. And I try to get them to understand, I'm like, he's the only one in the room that doesn't have to do it. Because if I say sprawl, no, you know what it's like when you run a room. If you say sprawl and you look over and one kid's in the corner trying to cheat the pro and he's not sprawling, or you're like shot and the kid doesn't shoot, you're gonna be like, what the hell are you doing? I told you to sprawl. And I said to the kids, I'm like, he's the only one here that doesn't have to do it. And he's doing it. And then we start practice, and he's like, do you want me to work on anything specific? I'm like, no, just do whatever you want. Just anything you want to focus on is great. We focused on short offense. We focused on a down block. And me, that's one of the things I've always preached. If you listen to Hayden talk, that's something that I think resonates with him because he's really good in short offense. But as kids, I was always like, yo, they're on their hands and knees. This is going to be a really good time to get on top of them as opposed to when they're on their feet hand fighting. Like, you got to be able to do that. But if we can get them on their hands and knees carrying us, we can hustle and get behind them. And so that's what he wanted to work on. And I said to the kids, I'm like, he could have showed anything. He could have showed his really nice underhook stuff, and he did show some underhook stuff. But just basics win wrestling matches, man. And you have to be willing. Yeah. If you want to be good, and this is the other thing I say to parents, and you got to say it to kids, but you need the parents to understand it too. You are going to have to do some mundane, boring as shit things thousands and thousands and thousands of times. And you're going to have to do it. You're going to have to do it, though, with purpose. Because here's the thing. If you went into any quality room, high school, college, even, the OTC, whatever, if the guys were doing stance motion, they'd be working on their shots, they'd be working on their down blocks, they'd be working on their fakes, they'd be circling and moving, got their hands going and all that. But that's what a 9-year-old's doing. That's what a 9-year-old beginner's doing. They're not doing it as well, but their stance motion is still shot, down block, sprawl, fake, move your feet, stay low, keep your hands down, keep moving. And it's like, so you're going to have to be willing to do this for years and years and years and years and years. And it's just got to get just minutely better, because if your stance motion at age 9 doesn't get better when you're 10, that's a problem. If your stance motion in junior high school isn't better when you go to high school, that's a problem. If you go to college and it doesn't improve from high school, that's a problem. You're not going to learn a new stance motion. No. You just have to be willing to get better at it.
Yeah,
what's
100%.
That?
Dude, my
dad, no one, but the kids that are really successful, they do it with purpose. They don't treat it like it's a pain in their ass. They don't treat it like they're too good for it. They're like, all right, this is what we're doing.
Dude, it's funny, man. Like, I remember a turning point in my life was when my dad, I was pissing and moaning that he was making me hit off a tee. I'm like, I'm past it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm past this.
Right.
He's like, you know, Don Mattingly literally hits off a tee every day. I'm like, crap.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I said this to the kids the other day.
Yeah.
So I think you'll know the answer to this. Who's considered the greatest? I said this to our kids like a week ago. Who's considered the greatest swimmer in the US?
Michael Phelps.
Michael Phelps is the golden boy. You see pictures of him with all these Olympic medals. So he's the best swimmer on the planet. And when he goes to train, he's just swimming. He's just doing that. And I know there's different activities. There's breaststroke and there's freestyle. I don't know the exact names of everything. I know there's different events, but he's practicing one friggin' thing. He's the best in the world at it. And he's still just trying to get better at that same thing.
Yeah, and that's really well said. Really, because it's a simple motion. It's a simple motion. It's just practicing it ad nauseum. With obsession, with
purpose.
Yeah.
With 100%. Purpose and with intention.
All right, Assael, we're getting to our sprint. Here we go.
Here we go. Sprint it out, babe.
Here we go. What's the greatest wrestling shoe of all time?
That's a good question. I don't know if you remember these. I think they were called the Animal back in the day. They were Asics and they were black. They were similar to the Rulons.
Okay. Joel,
I like the Rulon.
Can we get eyes on those? Asics.
I think they were called the Animal, and I could be totally wrong, but for some reason, I think I remember those. I like Asics personally. I'll tell you what, one of our dads got like these boxes of these clinch gear ones. They're the most comfortable shoe I have ever worn.
They're wonderful. Oh,
there you go.
There we go. Wow, those are kind of cool.
Yeah, they were black. They were similar to the Rulons. What's that?
Yeah, I don't remember those at all.
Those are cool.
Super. All right. That's pretty cool. All right, brother. All the stuff we talked about, especially as it relates to dealing with kids and parents, is there a book that you could kind of recommend to somebody that's just starting out their coaching career? Doesn't have to be a wrestling book.
That's really interesting. I don't know that there's a book. I'd say something I really enjoy, and I'm not a huge reader in general, but I like listening to high quality coaches, and it doesn't have to be wrestling coaches. Just talk about the process and the expectation. Like, I'm not a big college football fan, but Nick Saban, the guy won a lot of national titles. He's obviously extremely driven, but when you listen to him talk about preparation and you listen to him talk about, just culture and, Gino Auriemma is another one that I really like to listen to. And I'm not a women's basketball fan, but the 8 or 9 or 10 or whatever national titles the guy has tells me he's got a clue how to win.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And again, if you listen to those guys, they're always talking about process. They're always talking about just culture. And I would say for any young coach, get a mentor. Get a mentor. Because the thing with coaching is sometimes people just get thrown into it. You're an athlete, you graduate, and they're like, all right, you're coaching now.
Cool. Great.
And there's not a roadmap for it.
No, I agree. Okay. You only get 4. They got to be American. Who is on your Mount Rushmore of wrestling, brother?
That is a really interesting question. And I know you always, when people ask questions like, is it folk style? Is it freestyle? Is it impact? Is it winning?
Doesn't matter.
I personally think you have to go Gable just because of his influence on the sport. I think even people that don't know wrestling, they've you know what I mean? They know Iowa, they know Dan Gable. And I think just his legendary intensity and training as a competitor and his toughness, and some of it's myth, not myth, but I mean, obviously, it's like a larger than life presence. I think John Smith has to be on that list. I think he revolutionized the sport. And I think even though we've had people with more medals, 6 in a row is
That's
phenomenal.
so crazy.
Six in a row is just, when it's you against the field, it's you against the world. And then it gets tough. I mean, you get down to JB, you get down to Kale, you get down to Baumgartner because of the longevity of it, and a lot of other really, really obviously ultra super talented people. I think you got to go Kale just because the undefeated. I don't know that we're ever going to see that again. And I would almost guarantee we're never going to see 159 wins in a college career.
No.
Just the way guys are on pitch counts now. No one's wrestling 40 matches a year. I mean, that's literally one shy of 40.
Yep.
And what he's doing, what they're doing, coaching wise. And then I think you got to go JB. I mean,
that's the only list, by the way.
What?
That's the only real list. I swear I'm gonna get T-shirts made. I've been bugging Joel about it. And all it's gonna say is Dan, John, Kale, JB, and that's
you and I have the same list.
Absolutely.
Interesting. And the thing about JB that I don't think people, not only did he the 10 medals, he kept guys like Dake and Taylor and Howe, like these insanely elite guys. He kept them off teams for years. People don't realize how long it took David and Kyle to get onto the world scene. You know what I mean? And a lot of it was him keeping them at bay.
David,
and I think he also came around at a time when USA Wrestling was struggling. You know what I mean?
And he completely revolutionized it. Yeah, 100%.
He really did completely revolutionize it. And again, I mean, I know you would know better than me, but I could be wrong, but I think one-time high school state champ.
Yeah, he won one. He made a finals twice and lost once. Yeah, dude.
Right. And then 2 in college. And then 2 in college and then 10 on the world level. That's pretty crazy. But yes, I would say that would be my list.
Yeah, that's a great list, man. All right, last question. You get a magic wand. You get to change one thing about the sport of wrestling, and it changes tomorrow. What would it be?
Less emphasis on competition at the youth level. There's no reason for 9 and 10-year-old kids to wrestle 100 matches a year. There's no reason to be pulling kids out of school constantly because you're going from PA to Tulsa, or you're going from Jersey to Reno, or there's folk style nationals, there's freestyle now. It used to be that there was Fargo, and then there was some USA Wrestling events kind of spread out, and now it's Super 32 and it's Journeyman and it's NHSCA, and there's a million dual tournaments. And I think it's good for kids to have options and pick some. And if you're a higher level kid, like if you're an elite or soon to be trying to be elite high school wrestler, then you're going to have to do Super 32. You're going to have to do Fargo. You're going to need to see where you measure up. But the constant competition with the youth kids, where they're competing more than they're training and developing, I find it unnecessary. And frankly, it burns them out. I get this question all the time. Oh, I'm worried about them burning out. I'm worried about them burning out. They're not going to burn out going to an hour and a half practice. They're going to burn out when you're dragging them across the country, and now they're sharing a bed with a sibling, and you got to get to the airport, and you got to rent a car, get an Uber. Now we got to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning. We're in the hotel breakfast. It's completely packed with other screaming kids. Now we got to go wait in line. Now, okay, weigh-ins are over, shove food in your face. And now, okay, first round's going to start in 2 hours. Oh, sorry, Mike, you got to buy. So now you're going to sit for another 2 hours. Like, that's when I think kids get a little burned out. And also, it sucks for parents. Like, it's expensive and it's time consuming and it's time off work. And again, competition is very necessary, but I think it's being force-fed at a young age because it's almost like we got to keep up. We got to keep up. We got to keep up. It's like you're way better off getting a base of wrestling and getting good at wrestling and then ramping up your competition as opposed to trying to compete all the time when your fundamentals aren't there. So I mean,
Schwab.
that's just me personally,
Schwab.
but
Sure.
yes.
But, so Doug Schwab does not let his kids compete until they've had at least 11 practices in between competition. That's a pretty
I think that's a great
solid number.
idea. I think that's a great idea.
And the number itself is pretty arbitrary. You can make it whatever the heck you want. It could be 20, it could be 10, it could be 5, but there is a set amount. Like you're not allowed to compete until you've practiced X amount of times before or between. Yeah, that's a good benchmark. Ian,
I like that a lot.
thank you. Thank you so much for
Michael.
coming on.
It
I
is
appreciate
always a
you.
pleasure. What's that?
All right, bro. I said I
Good talking to
appreciate
you guys.
coming
Awesome.
All
Have a
right.
great afternoon, guys. See you.
Wait, don't go anywhere before you hit that next button. If you enjoyed listening to this episode, do us a huge favor. Click that subscribe button. And if you're so inclined, leave a review and share it.